of months ago, I went swimming with my friend and her daughter, who at 4 years old is just learning how to swim. She loves being in the water and she can't wait to splash around. But once we started to move away from the steps of the pool, from the shallow end into deeper waters, my friend's daughter got really scared. She was especially nervous about practicing the skill that she had been working on for months, which is putting her face in the water. This was something that she had done many times before in her swim class, but for some reason on this day, she got scared and refused to go all the way into the pool. That is, until we tried a new approach. At first, we were encouraging her, telling her that she had done this before. This is something that she had learned from her swim class. She shouldn't be afraid because it was going to be really fun to be able to swim all the way into the deep end of the pool. But it turned out this was not the right approach. In fact, we were probably actually reinforcing her fears by telling her that she shouldn't be feeling this way. So instead, I tried an approach that has been working for me whenever I feel fear about diving into the deep end of the pool. I started by pointing out all of the parts of her that were already fully in the water. I pointed to her feet and I said, look, your feet are already fully in the pool. I pointed to her legs and said, look, your legs are fully underwater. I pointed to her stomach, to her arms, to her hands, to her shoulders, everything that she had already submerged in the water. When she realized that almost all of her was already in the water, it started to seem more possible to put her head under the surface. And of course, we reminded her of all the safety techniques that she's been learning in her swim class, such as blowing bubbles to make sure that she's not taking in any water. We reminded her that we were right there to catch her. And most importantly, we told her that it was okay to feel this fear and still try it anyway. Eventually, after noticing that she was almost completely already underwater, it wasn't very long before she was diving deep and looking for mermaids. When I thought about it later, it made me realize that this is exactly the same thing that happens to most of us when we have some big goal or creative dream in our lives. We often take this thing and place it on a high pedestal, as if the type of person who could achieve this is somehow different from us, that it is some insurmountable obstacle to be able to achieve this dream or work towards that specific goal. But like my friend's daughter, a lot of the time we're closer than we think. Anything you want to do with your life, there's some level at which you are already doing that thing. It might not look exactly the way it does when you daydream about achieving your goal, but most likely there are some skills or habits that you're already doing that are a big part of achieving this goal. In this video, I want to talk about how we can leverage the things that we are already doing to write a new story about our possibility in life. This brings me back to a couple of years ago. One of my favorite parts of my job is making videos for my students. I love coming up with new and creative ways to explain things, and I like testing my brain for coming up with new metaphors and analogies to make concepts that are really obscure and difficult easier for people to understand. I had this secret dream, which was to make videos and put them on YouTube, but I felt a ton of fear. Anybody I watched on YouTube seemed like somebody who had conquered those fears, who never experienced any kind of imposter syndrome, and never doubted that this was how they were supposed to be using their creative energy. So what didn't work for me was to compare myself to those people, and especially the polished image of themselves that they put online. What did work for me was to start thinking in terms of what are the things that I'm already doing that are actually the same as making videos and putting them on YouTube? The first thing that occurred to me is that I have been teaching for over a decade. On this side of YouTube, the educational side, a lot of times it's not all that different than trying to convey ideas in the classroom. You have to come up with new approaches. You have to keep your audience's attention, and you have to explain things in such a way that people can then take those ideas and apply them to their their own lives. I've even been recording myself before because I teach some classes online, so I've made videos that I've uploaded as lectures. Because I've been nerding out on design and graphics lately, I decided to make a graphic of all the skills that I translated from being a teacher in the classroom to making videos on YouTube. And if you want to check that out, there's a link in the description box and you can download that for free. Like my friend's daughter, who was feeling the fear and did it anyway, I decided that it didn't have to be a problem for me to experience some emotions like fear, self-doubt, anxiety, and even imposter syndrome. I thought about all the other times in my life when I did something for the first time, including my first college-level class that I ever taught. I could not sleep a wink the night before I taught my first college course. And in fact, I probably spent that entire semester feeling some low-level anxiety the entire time. Back then, I definitely felt like an imposter. And in fact, I probably looked like one too. I was fairly young to start my teaching career, and there was one time when I came into the classroom and the group of new students thought that I was another student and not their instructor. There were even some really unpleasant times when people questioned my credentials because they weren't sure if I was worth listening to or if I had any authority to speak about those topics. But I survived those moments and I didn't die, and sometimes it even felt exhilarating. I felt powerful in those moments because I was actually doing something that challenged me and was helping me grow. This is when I feel the most alive. Sometimes when you want to start doing something, what it first requires is to notice the logical bridges between the life you currently live and the one you aspire to. Where are there similarities that you can translate into the new skills that are required to achieve your dream? This does require you to use your critical thinking skills and to start to connect the dots and see parallels between your actions. And again, like my friend's daughter, sometimes you're going to need direct instruction. I needed to learn a lot when it came to making videos for a YouTube audience that is different from teaching inside a classroom. So I signed up for some courses and I watched other creators' videos, and I have watched plenty of 5-minute clips on YouTube about how to make effects in DaVinci Resolve. So there's nothing wrong with getting some direct help in learning the skills of the thing that you want to do. But it's important not to get caught in an endless loop of learning. We could have spent the whole afternoon explaining to my friend's daughter why she didn't have to be afraid because she could use everything she learned in swim class, but that wasn't going to help her. What helped her was to show her how she was actually already doing it. She was already swimming, and all that was left was to take a deep breath, hold her nose, and dive in. Thanks for watching, and happy swimming.